Hi, I'm Rebecca Rosen, a spiritual medium and best-selling author. Welcome to my podcast, Small, Medium, at Large. Although small in stature, I've been taking on the big and unusual job of talking to the dead for over 20 years. I serve as a messenger for spirit, helping people to connect to their departed loved ones and guides, while also encouraging them to strengthen their own intuition. How do you know someone present in this life is a twin flame? Well, I am definitely not an expert on twin flames. However, they have come up countless times in readings. Okay, so I absolutely have heard from spirit all sorts of information on twin flames. But let's just start with this. The twin flame, it's a newer concept, to most everyday people. And sometimes it's mistaken to, to be synonymous with a soulmate. Both of them, soulmate relationships, twin flame relationships, they can be described as a profound, life-changing relationship, but very different concepts, okay? So let's start with this. A twin flame it's the other part of you, okay? It's an intense soul connection between two people thought to be each other's other half. And this is based on the premise that one soul can incarnate into two separate bodies, okay? Which Spirit tells me, absolutely, yes, this happens. A soulmate, on the other hand, is not your other half. A soulmate is someone, whether it's in your primary soul group, secondary, or so forth, they are souls that you continue to reincarnate with in lifetime after lifetime to play out certain roles to help each other grow and evolve. And usually you're working on the same lessons. And so in relationship, you're able to help each other learn those lessons. So it's very different. But Elizabeth Clare Prophet, she's a wonderful spiritual teacher, but back in the 1970s, she coined the term twin flame, from my understanding. And she published a great book. It's called Soulmates and Twin Flames, The Spiritual Dimension of Love and Relationships. So if you're curious, I would suggest you read further. I'm sure there's a million amazing books out there on this, but that's the one that I have read. So twin flames, let me just throw this out there. There's a few signs that could point you to a twin flame relationship, and here are a few. So take a mental checklist of this, and if it resonates, then chances are good that you are with a twin flame. And let me just add this. What my guides have told me is most twin flames are not incarnating together in the physical form. Usually one stays behind on the other side, and sometimes they act as your spirit guide. A lot of times they're just waiting for you to finish out your lessons in this earth school. And then once you're done in transition, you reunite. Okay, so it's very common to never connect with in the physical your twin flame. However, there are many who do. So here are a few signs that could indicate you are with a twin flame. The first one is when you meet this person, there's this deep sense that you're meeting yourself. Okay, so these can be also coined as mirror souls. It feels like you have found you in the other. Another is a deep connection. You cannot describe it. It's so deep and intense. It transcends words, okay? Another sign would be tremendous similarities, okay? Almost uncanny. Really connected both in physical characteristics and similarities, but also morals and values, okay? Again, it's as if you're looking at yourself back in the mirror. Another sign would be a deep desire to grow with that person. Almost a longing, like you need to be with that person. And you really, that person brings up this deep desire within you to grow and evolve your soul. Another would be putting that twin flame's growth as a priority over being in a relationship. Okay. So it's like how most of us love our children unconditionally, right? And so you would do anything for that soul, even at your own detriment. Okay. But that is the priority, is them. And usually it's reciprocal. Okay. And then another would be, the meeting signifies a major change in your life. So sometimes twin flames come in and you don't stay together. You're that person. This is what the bump contract refers to. So a bump contract, totally different concept, but Spirit has shared that the bump contract is someone who comes into your life for a snippet of time, but it's powerful, it's intense. You never forget this person. I write about this theory in my next book, What's Your Heaven? So if you're curious, I talk all about soulmates, soul groups, and bump contracts. So you can find more information there. But this meeting coming together may be short-lived. Twin flames are meant to come into each other's lives to wake each other up, to inspire each other, to light a fire within each other, to show up and to grow and evolve, and to do our best. And twin flames can be very hard to live with. Okay. From what I've heard, it's almost like the love-hate relationship. It's that intense. And so oftentimes it doesn't end well, but if you're evolved enough, you can see through your higher consciousness that it's a gift, all of it. And you're not going to go into judgment. It was good or bad, right or wrong. You appreciate it for what it is and what it was intended to do, how it was intended to come into your life for a period of time, serve each of you, and then leave. And so these can be very painful relationships, but equally as gratifying. And it reawakens a part of you that perhaps was asleep before you reunited and came together. And the last thing I would say on this is that twin flames, sometimes you can connect with them in your dream state because they aren't incarnated, or if they are incarnated, but your paths have not crossed or you've made choices where you're not allowing them to, you can work with your twin flame in the dream state or deep meditation state. Okay, so if they are in spirit or if they're across the world and you need to connect and work together, there are ways to connect with the consciousness of your twin flame outside of just being physically present to each other. If someone wants to start doing readings, should they begin with family and friends? Well, if you asked me, which you did, I would suggest you actually begin with total strangers. And here's why. Because with family and friends, I know in my experience, sometimes they are the hardest ones for me to read because it's hard to be objective and separate what you conceptually and on a mind level already know versus what's intuitively, organically coming to you. And so when this all began for me, one of my dear friends at the time, Victoria, who went on to become this amazing psychic teacher, she encouraged me to read strangers, and she was 100% right. So what she did is she sent me some of her friends that I had never met, and their friends referred to other friends. So it became, for the first few months before I had the courage to, after proving to myself this was real and I could actually do this for anyone outside of myself, that's when I went and set up shop in a coffee shop, okay? But it wasn't until I did many, many readings with strangers to show myself that, wow, I don't need to know this person to be able to dial in, tune in, and connect with them, their energy, and their departed loved ones and guides in spirit. Okay? So I would highly recommend that you work with someone that you don't know. And also the other side of this is that a lot of times what I have found, there's pressure on us when you're reading someone you know to give them the outcome that they're looking for Okay, even if it's not spoken, it's felt, and you can't necessarily be neutral. The most important thing when you're doing readings is to be neutral and to not be in any people-pleasing mode, or not to be projecting any of your own biases, opinions, or judgments. You really have to be a pure, clean, neutral channel to offer the highest and best reading. So I would suggest step out of your comfort zone and figure out how you can work with someone you don't know. And I promise you, it's a lot more rewarding and fulfilling when you can walk away from that smiling, knowing that the information you brought through was brought to you and through you. It wasn't from you. What happens to our spirit guides when we pass away? I love this question. So here's what my guides have shared with me on what happens. Our spirit guides come and go based on the lessons we're working on at any one time in our life. And sometimes our guides are there for a few weeks, few months, few years, and sometimes a lifetime. It really just depends on what the lesson is. Okay, and so it's like trading out teachers or mentors or therapists throughout your lifetime. And so what happens is that we all have a permanent guardian angel. Okay, that's with us from the day we're born till the day we die. Some of us have permanent spirit guides. Many of us do. Okay, those are your main spirit guides. And then we have a lot of visiting spirit guides, and these are the ones that come and go. So what happens is when we cross over, they're working equally as hard to grow and evolve as we are. They're just in non-physical, and it's a win-win if we can work together to help each other, to pass our tests, learn our lessons. So when you have done your work and you've moved on to a new lesson, the spirit guide pats itself on the back and gets to move on to a new assignment, whether that's guiding another living incarnated soul group member, or moving on to the higher heavens to learn its lessons and do its own work. So our spirit guides, sometimes what happens is they're done once we pass on, and then maybe the tables have turned where they trade places, where they say, cover me, I'm going in, and this time you get to be my guide. Okay, so they incarnate, and you at some point, after being responsibly trained by more advanced guides, you would step in and guide them. This is exactly what happened with my grandmother Babe and I. She took her own life. She passed away, and 10 years later, she became my spirit guide, but it took 10 years for her to heal and evolve to be able to effectively and responsibly guide me, who was headed down the same road of depression at that time. Okay, and then when I was complete, after about 18 months to 2 years, she moved on. She's no longer working with me. She'll come in to say hi, but in fact, I felt her the other day, and it was shocking because I hadn't felt her in years. But she was showing up left and right just to check in, to show me that she was around. But the point being, just like we evolve, so do your guides, okay? And so they are going to move on to whatever it is next that allows their own evolution. Do we ever become the guide for the guides we had in this lifetime? This question is very similar to another question in that what happens to our guides when we pass. And I feel like this is important and for us to get a better understanding of all of this. But we in our soul contracts play out different roles with each other. And sometimes we are incarnated, walking this earth, learning our lessons. And we have these amazing soul mates and soul members in our tribe on the other side who are covering us. They, at some point in our life, our chapter, a lesson, whatever it is we're working on, they are showing up to guide us, to comfort us, to heal us, whatever their purpose is. And so a lot of times these roles will swap, okay? And so the reason for that is that it allows for us to be on both sides of the equation. Okay, so the tables have turned, and that is the best way, learning through contrast. or the polarity, learning through opposites. This is the best way sometimes for many souls to learn. And so a guide that has worked with you in this lifetime, when you cross over, it's very likely at some point in time that soul will incarnate, and then you from the other side will become their spirit guide. Okay? So the bottom line is we continue to travel together, lifetime throughout lifetime, life between lives in the spirit world. And we are constantly helping each other. We're all in this together, and our souls know that, even if our minds have forgotten. And we are all here cheering each other on to do our best, to do our work, right? Learn our lessons, heal our past, to grow and evolve into the greatest expressions of our own divinity. That is why we are here. And we continue to do this song and dance of reincarnation to allow ourselves for just that experience. Can a soul reincarnate back into your life? The answer is yes. Anything is possible. I've done tons of readings where that has happened, but I have to be honest, it's very unusual. And here's why. So here we are in Earth School, and imagine going grades K through 12. And by the time you go through graduation, it's such a relief, and you cannot wait for summer vacation, and depending on what you're going to do after graduation, some go on to extended schooling and go get a 4-year degree, and some go to a special training or program, and some are done and they go on with their life and they get a job. But whatever it is, most souls want a breather in there. They want that summer vacation to decompress, to recharge, and to just go play. Because man, what a journey. All those years of showing up and doing the work in school. And so naturally, we want to rest and relax. And so the same goes for the other side. We're in Earth School, you cross over, and if you have found your heaven, and most do, you want to kick your feet up. And it's like having a summer vacation where you can do whatever and create whatever. Heaven brings your heart and soul joy and relief and peace. And so why would you want to jump back into a body right away? So there are a few reasons why. Sometimes it's that your life was taken, through random acts of chaos, which are very abrupt, sudden, with mass shootings, or you were murdered, or, whatever it is. The point being, you feel like, wow. And sometimes this is a death by suicide where you're like, wow, I really screwed up here and I really would like to change this. And I have unfinished business with so many people. I want to get right back into a body. And so these souls sometimes come back in, whether it's starting out from ground zero and being born as babies and going through a whole life cycle again, or there's a thing called walk-ins. And walk-ins are where you swap souls with someone who's living, who's complete and done on a soul level. And you don't want to start from ground zero. You want to get right back to a certain age and get in the game to heal and grow and evolve with your living loved ones. And so that has come up quite a bit lately, actually, as a possibility. So I had a reading with a woman not too long ago where she was probably in her late 60s, early 70s, and I brought through her father, Jack, who was talking about the grandson that was just born and how that grandson reminds this woman of her grandmother. And she said it's the oddest thing because here I have this tiny little, boy, but I keep feeling and thinking of my beloved grandmother. And the grandmother and this woman were like soulmates, very, very, very connected. And she said, actually, so much so that my kids decided to give the first initial after my grandmother to this baby boy. Okay. So forget gender. We change genders all the time with reincarnation. So here we have the same soul. So basically her father in spirit said, by the way, that is your grandmother reincarnated into a body to be with you. And this woman, it came up that her purpose is to be present to this grandchild, because that grandchild and she have, it's like the tables have turned. So where her grandmother was very influential during her childhood years and beyond, and they were very close, the tables have turned where now she gets to be the teacher and very influential, and the grandmother soul gets to experience this from the other side of the equation. Very powerful, but the bottom line is it confirmed this woman's deep instincts that there was a connection. And there is, and there was. And so the point being is that, yes, this happens. And I would say trust your feelings over your head. Okay? So if you feel like someone you come into contact with, whether it's somebody who's, an adult, or it's a newborn child, and you sense a familiar presence, that familiar feeling is your soul telling you and identifying that you have met, you know each other, and you have further work to do in this lifetime. And so when you sense that familiar feeling, okay, you sense a deep connection that you can't put your finger on, or it's not necessarily adding up on paper, but your soul knows that you've known this person deeply and completely before, trust that. That is guidance from your higher self, from your team in spirit, reminding you that you are still working together to grow and evolve, and that your work together is not complete. And so here you have another round without having to die and wait for another lifetime to reincarnate all over again together. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Small Medium at Large. For more information about my offerings and events, and for additional resources on your spiritual journey, including my self-guided courses, books, and blog videos, please visit my website, RebeccaRosen.com. You can also follow me on social media by searching @Medium Rebecca Rosen on Facebook and Instagram. As always, wishing you brightest blessings and all love.